What's up, guys? It's your boy Matthew, aka Mateo. I'm back with another word to motivate you and inspire you. If it's your first time checking out one of my videos, I call my channel Life Warriors because it's all about building a community of us coming together to level up in life, learn, grow together, including chronicling my own personal journey in all these different categories on my page. So today we're in the category of love and relationships, and I wanted to sit down with two of my very good friends, Cam and KP, to talk about something that I can't really find that much on the internet. There's not a lot of information about this, and that's what do you do when it's time to actually break up with the girl you're with. You know, the signs are there, things are not going right, and so you're kind of feeling like, you know, I want to get out of this relationship. It's a touchy subject, so I wanted to bring in two very good friends to talk about it with me, and why don't you guys give yourselves a quick introduction?
Yes, sir. What's up, guys? My name is Kam Dasani, and I'm literally the only dating coach that not only teaches you the skills that you need to get the girls that you actually want, but also schedules you on dates with those women so you can practice what you've learned. I'll quickly introduce KP. He's somebody that I consider just a pure natural when it comes to socializing, communication, dating, relationships, so on and so forth. As far as I know, you haven't really, studied theory the way I have, but you still have very, very admirable results, and it's always great to have a natural's perspective on board, so I'm ready to get into it for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want to add anything to that intro? That was a solid intro.
No, that was a great intro. Yeah, I like that. That's better than what I would have said about myself. So. Well, yeah, we'll keep that one.
All right, we'll roll with that. All right, guys, so I got a few questions here for you, so we'll just kind of throw these questions out, and you guys can take turns answering them. Just to dive right into it, what are some of the signs when you're in a relationship with a woman where you kind of like the writing is starting to be on the wall that she might not be the girl you thought she was, or she might not be, you know, the girl that you really want to be with for the long term, and it's kind of pulling at you a little bit like, I want to get out of this relationship? What are some of those signs?
Right.
Yeah. So for me, the first thing I thought of when you said that was things change when people drink, right? So I like to, if I was still single, the way I used to date is I would try to get, good sober dates and also get drunk together, because I want to see who you are when you're under the influence.
Interesting.
Because then kind of your no filter personality and who you are comes out, and then I can figure out, okay, who are you? Are you still solid when you're drunk? Are you gonna, abandon me? Are you gonna talk to me in contempt? Things like that, right?
Start flirting with other guys.
Flirting with other guys. So things like that where I just want to see who you really are, and that's a good way to do it. So that's a sign though, like those signs that I said. So if you can't handle yourself when you're drunk, if you talk to people in contempt, if you are just difficult to deal with, and things like that.
Yeah, I think a little bit different, but when we're looking at signs and stuff, I think when you get in a relationship with someone, you probably have a couple mutual goals, right? And you have a big goal, whether that's, growth financially, intimately, whatever it is. And I think that people grow together, they grow apart, and the goal is to grow together, but that doesn't always happen. And so we hear communication is key all the time, but when that's kind of lacking and you feel like you guys are starting to diverge in your paths and what you want to do, then I think communicating that early and often is important, because then you start to build that little resentment, and then we've all been in that position where you're the little thing someone does bothers you a lot more than it should, and that didn't come out of nowhere, right? That came out of just not communicating the first, second, or third time. So I think it's natural, right? We're all growing constantly, and when you start to grow apart, I think establishing that that's happening, and then seeing if you want to converge on your paths of growth, or decide at that point, we had a good run, but to keep both of us happy, we need to do what, makes us feel true to ourselves. And
quick follow-on question on that. Is there, when you guys entered into a new relationship, do you give it 3 months, 4 months to kind of try to expose as much as you can and see, hey, is this dynamic going to be good for the long haul, or should I pull the plug?
Right. I think it's changed for me personally a lot.
Okay.
Early on, I would kind of look at it like that. I'm just going to kind of test it out 3 months, 4 months. As I've gotten a little bit older and gotten a lot more experience, I think I kind of understand that I want to be as transparent as possible, as early as possible, just not to waste my time, not to waste the girls' time.
Right.
And I think we all have green flags and red flags and things that we look for, right? Like non-negotiables.
Right.
So kind of identifying those early, I think, are important. Other than that, though, I do think, the quality of the time matters more than the quantity. So I won't put a time period on it, but it depends on the conversations, right? If I can get you on a coffee date for 10 minutes or 30 minutes, or if I see you out at the club, like those are two very different dates, and I can get a lot more quality from sitting down one-on-one with you than us being together for 3 hours in a club, but we didn't really converse all that much.
Right.
So I think that's where I kind of look at things.
Well said.
Yeah.
So I'll say I think quality and quantity go hand in hand in the sense of like, let's say 3 months go by. If I'm on a date with you every week, like if we're just rocking for 3 months, that's enough time to kind of know for me.
Okay.
But if you like, there's situations where I've dated somebody for 3 months, but I really only in those 3 months hung out with you like 5 times, right? It's like every other week or something like that.
Right.
So it kind of depends on the amount of time you're spending with somebody and in the different situations, like you said. However, I will also say that sometimes the drunk times can bring you closer if it's the right person, because walls get let down, your guard gets let down, you say things that you just wouldn't have said if you didn't have the liquid courage. Right? And women feel that a lot, where they like, if you can probably remember sometimes that you either fell really hard in lust or in love in drunk situations with that girl that you've been seeing consistently for a while, where it's just like, this is so perfect. Like, you're exactly who I want to be fucked up out with. Right? And like, that sounds like a shallow thing, but it's not, because that's when the feelings are there.
Part of your life. And I think that's important. Like, dating in a multitude of settings is super important, right? Like, we're at the house just watching a movie or we're cooking dinner, right? That's one. Like, going out together for sure, because if that's part of both of your lives, like, that's time you're going to spend together. Right. Going on a small trip even, right? Like, you want to see someone in as many settings as possible. So 100%. You can see, like, okay, this is going to be the rest of our life. Like, how is it going to look in all of these ways? The worst thing is, like, I see you out all the time. We have a great time. We date for 6 months. Then we go on our first trip. Right. And, we hate each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's just wasted time, So trying to get some variety there, I think, goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, because there's endless amounts of stuff on the internet about how to find a relationship. In fact, I will even personally vouch for the Unstoppable Dating System program that you head up. I'm currently mentoring under you in that program, and I can 100% testify that the advice you give in that program is perfect. It's spot on. It's totally recommended for anybody to check that out. But all of that is leading up to, like, putting on your best appearances, so to speak, to get into that relationship. What you guys just said is really interesting. When you let your guard down and the girl lets her guard down, and you're in these other situations, be it drunk, cooking, going traveling together. I mean, I thought I was with the perfect girl, and we took one little weekend trip to LA, and she was like a travel nightmare. And I was just like, no, that's not going to work. Yeah. So when you see a woman in these different capacities, and they kind of like, they let their guard down, so to speak, and then the real stuff kind of comes out. Right. So when that happens, and you kind of see the real side, and she sees the real side of you, and you ultimately kind of feel like, nah, I don't think she's going to be the right one. How do you guys recommend that a guy goes about setting up the breakup?
I have a great thought on this. So I think avoiding buildup is really important. A lot of people, they'll be like, hey, we need to talk. And then, like, days go by before they meet in person. Yeah, terrible. Don't do that to somebody. Just be who you guys are. And then I know people will say, well, that's blindsiding if you don't give them build-up. You can give them a little build-up. You can say, hey, looking forward to seeing you today. I want to talk to you about some stuff. Right. And then at least that doesn't make the build-up so bad that they're just like, they're hurting in this like delay period, right? Because typically if you tell somebody you want to talk and you're not telling them what it's about, we know what it is. Right. So like
a woman has great intuition, so they can almost like feel this coming. Exactly. Even before you say something like that, right?
Or I mean, even if it's not a breakup, it's something bad. If they're not willing to tell you over text, it's something bad that they want to talk about in person. And I think you should, unless you've like been seeing her like, 2 dates, 3 dates, and you could just text and say, hey, this isn't working for me. Right. But if this is your girl, or this is somebody that you're seeing like pretty seriously, or more on the serious side, I think everybody owes the other person an in-person explanation.
Wow.
Because
well said.
The other person also deserves to counter. And when I say counter, I mean, What if you're breaking up with somebody and they tell you exactly what you needed to prevent that breakup?
Right.
I've been in many situations like that where like there were just certain conversations that weren't had, and when everything was on the line, those conversations were had, and then that changed things for the better.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like mentally fatiguing somebody before you,
right?
You know, like it just doesn't go well at all. I also think that I don't see it as blindsiding at all. If I don't say anything to you and we're hanging out like we're supposed to, and then I bring up this topic, like I don't think breakups or those kinds of talks have to be a one conversation, like one and done situation.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? I think that like it can go on the course, like you owe it to that person, and I don't think going on the course of a couple days or a week is necessarily a bad thing if you have, you know, a relationship that means a lot, right? Like we all need time to process things too. So if I start the conversation about this, we handle as much as we can, but I would hope that we have enough communication where we can say, okay, like this is a lot. I just need some time to process. Like, let's sleep on this. Let's revisit tomorrow and like continue this discussion. Like, I don't think I'm blindsiding you by saying, look, I want this to be a conversation. This isn't, I'm telling you a statement and I'm leaving, right? So I think like drawing that out for a little bit gives everyone, yourself and that person, time to process, time to maybe, you know, rethink certain things that may be deal breakers. And then they decide that they're going to come back and those things may change. But yeah, I think that's a big thing, and we don't really talk about that. We view breakups as like, all right, well, we need to do a clean cut, and it's done now, and we never talk about it. And I just don't think that that's helpful for anyone, because you know there's always going to be follow-up questions.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think drawing that process out a little bit is super helpful for them.
I have to agree with KP on this one. I like in preparation for this chat today, you know, I was thinking back on the situations that I've been in, and it definitely was like more of like, not just ripping the Band-Aid off and not hitting them blindside, but like kind of letting them know like, hey, there's some stuff going on here. I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I kind of want to process it, and I want to come back to you kind of like with my thoughts on that, right? But in my mind, I feel like I had already like made up my decision that I was going to break up, but I wanted to kind of like check myself about it because, you know, this woman was important to me or whatnot, right? So by saying that, I feel like it wasn't like, hey, there's something I want to talk to you about, but let's, you know, it's serious, but it will come back in a few days, like what you were saying, right? Because that kind of just like prolongs that kind of prolongs the whole thing, right? But by setting it up in a manner of like, hey, there's some stuff going on here that I'm not sure about in the relationship. I want to talk to you about it. That gave me time to kind of process it myself.
100%.
And it also kind of indicated to her like, wait a minute, something might be off here. Like, okay, then let's have this talk. So I think that's a really good strategy if you're a guy in that situation to kind of set it up in that way. Quick follow on this. This contextually speaking, should you do it on a Friday night, a Monday morning, in person, by phone, by FaceTime? Like, what's your guys' thoughts on the timing in which you have this kind of, because it's a sad thing, right? I mean, it's definitely, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that
Monday morning's rough, man. Starting their week off like that.
I think it depends, right? Like, obviously, to Cam's point, like, if you've been dating a couple times, like, a little FaceTime call, a text, whatever.
Right.
I'm assuming we're talking about a relationship that you know, has been a healthy, good relationship for a substantial amount of time, or at least, you know, something like that. So, with that, I think in person, again, like, it's about, even to your last point, like, this, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, they're your friend first, right? Like, you're talking to them like that. Even if you're setting the breakup thing, I'm saying, hey, this is where my head's at. I'm coming to you to talk to you about this as my person, right? So I think in person is something that they're owed. Just out of respect for them, regardless of if you're together or not together. You respected that person at one point. Hopefully you still respect them. So I think in person matters. As opposed, timing-wise, it's tough, right? We try to pre-plan things. I've done that in the past, like try to plan on a Friday night, because then you're like, all right, well, we have a weekend ahead of me, but it's still going to hit on Monday morning. You know, like you're just distracting yourself, right? I feel like when the time's right, you try to give yourself enough time to have that conversation without it being rushed. But other than that, I don't think a Monday morning versus a Friday night versus before a trip. You know, I think it's just when you feel mentally ready to do it, without planning how it's going to be easier for you after the fact. You know what I mean? I think planning just when it's the right time to do it is how you should go about it. And then you should take the sadness that comes with it, because ultimately you're not going to be able to avoid that.
Yeah, exactly.
You just got to go through it. Like
exactly.
You got to go through the fire. You know?
I agree in the sense of, like, I think also there's a balance between like doing something when you're ready and just ripping the Band-Aid off, right? Because like if you pre-plan like, okay, well, like this Friday coming up, I'm going to have this conversation. Now you're thinking about it all week yourself, and it might not be delivered as well as you should.
Interesting.
Right?
Yep.
At the same time, you don't want to rush when you're like in an emotional state and like fuck things up. And I've
Right,
definitely done that in the past. But day-wise, like Friday, Mondays, Tuesday, that doesn't matter to me. I don't think it does, because it's all going to come down to like the balance again of like ripping the Band-Aid off versus like actually thinking it through. And you just don't want to give yourself too much gap.
Right.
Like if I'm like thinking about it on a Monday and it's like, okay, by Wednesday, I'm like, I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to sleep on it one more night and I'm going to do it on Thursday.
Okay.
Right. That's just how I operate.
How do you guys recommend that anybody watching this that's going through this process, how should a guy move on after the breakup? So now they've had the call.
Yeah.
They decided, no, she's not telling me what I need to hear. I'm standing firm on this.
Yeah.
Ripping the Band-Aid off. We're done. Ending the FaceTime call, whatever, or in person, walk. By the way, just real quick, I'm not going to say this woman's name, but my situation, the fluttering and whatnot, it was just kind of like literally she said to me was like, so I guess this means this is the last call we're ever going to have.
Oh, yeah.
I'm never going to talk to you again after this. It's like, what do you say in that situation, right?
Yes.
Like, literally, like, what would you guys say in that situation? Like, yep, this is the last call.
What's the truth?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, that is the truth, right? It's just like, it's such an awkward thing for her to ask. It's like, well, we're breaking up,
The truth hurts all the time, and we talk about it. It's like, don't ask a question you don't want the answer to, right? Like, I won't say, I mean, people ask questions all the time, and they have an answer in their head, and if they don't hear that answer, they get upset.
Yes.
And like, if you ask a question, you have to be prepared for any answer.
Great
that's the
point.
point of asking a question.
Great point.
And I'll say that. If they ask me a question, I know the answer is going to hurt them, I will just say, like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you want to know the answer? Are you sure?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good way to respond.
If you're asking me that, you know what I'm going to say.
That's a great way to respond.
But like, are you sure you're prepared
with
to hear the words?
Right.
Yes, this is the last time we're going to talk. Come out of my mouth.
Right.
Or do you just, you know what I mean? And I think that happens all the time.
Right. You got anything to add on to that? That's a really good way to reply to that.
Yeah. What was the original question?
The original question is like when she said something like, so this is the last time we're ever going to talk, and she's like crying and stuff like that. Like instead of responding very directly, like, yes, this is the last time we're ever going to talk. To KP's point, like, are you sure you want to hear me say that? Like, kind of almost answer her question with a question type of thing, right? To kind of like, because she already knows the answer is going to be yes, but like, do you really want to hear that right now? Like that type of thing, right?
I like, okay, what I was going to say before I heard what KP said was worse. Meaning I'll do that from now on. Like, because I'm just too direct when it comes to things that are need to be the truth.
Need to be said.
Where there's no there's no outcome that's going to be better doing anything else. Right? So and now I realize there can be a better outcome with that. Because she might say, actually, no, you know what, I don't. Or she'll say yes, and then you'll at least have given the courtesy to say, okay, you said you wanted it, double tie down, again, boom, here's the answer. So that's a better, I like that better.
Yep.
A lot.
A great nugget right there. So, okay, so now you've hung up the call, you've done the breakup. Do you recommend, the guy just call some buddies up and let's go out? Or should he take some time to kind of like think on the relationship, think on what happened? Like, what would you say from a getting ready to move on to the next woman encounter?
I will say that if you got left, or like you're really in your feelings, you should process those feelings for a couple days at least.
Wow.
But then don't sit in that pain for too long.
Right.
This is a common thing in therapy where therapists will tell you to sit in feelings and bring up feelings from the past too often, and now you're living in the past and living with negative feelings, and you're wondering why you're not going anywhere. You just need to process things long enough for you to accept and understand them so you can move forward in the right way.
Well said.
Right.
So
really well said. Yeah, because there is that dichotomy, right? There's like sometimes you want to be the person initiating the breakup. Sometimes you get blindsided with the breakup, right? I've had girls call me up and just say, this is just not going to work for me, blah, blah, blah. And that's fucking sucks when that happens.
Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with, like in the past when I was a little bit younger, like I went through a breakup after like a 6-year relationship, right? Like tough. I do think like at that time, the mistakes I made were like instantly distracting myself. Do we curse on this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let it go.
I think we're all...
Speak the truth.
Yeah. No, I think everyone watching probably, like, we're all emotionally fucked up, right? Like, we all have baggage now, and I think it's because we don't heal properly.
Right.
I agree to your point that we shouldn't just sit in our feelings and, like, live in the past at all.
Right.
But I do think there's an issue where, and this goes back to the dating apps and the accessibility of Instagram and stuff, where, like, you break up and you go, I need to distract myself. Yeah, you're going to call the boys, but you're going to call the boys to go out to meet girls. You're instantly trying to distract yourself with surface level conversation with women and get some validation from the matches you're getting on dating apps and stuff.
Right.
And I think that what happens is you go, oh yeah, like I'll feel the sadness less over time, and you equate that with healing, but that's not healing at all, right? Because then you're going to bring all of that you've just pushed down in your subconscious to your next relationship, and it's just gonna be a shit show, right? And I think that's why dating is such warfare, for lack of a better word, in 2023, right? Like, so I think it's important to, like, yes, distract yourself. The night of, call your boys, but maybe like just come over and have some beers and talk. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't jump right into the dating apps. Don't jump right into trying to get with girls and stuff.
Interesting.
But I do think that there's a lot of importance to like not being scared of the sadness and the loneliness and those types of feelings that come with the breakup, because it's just a necessary part of healing, and it's like short-term discomfort for, you know, like long-term satisfaction. Like acknowledging what happened,
right?
Understanding it, taking, you know, those hits and then moving forward with it. So
Big
not
time.
living in it at all. But like if you never acknowledge it and you just go, yeah, it happened, like just bearing it because I'm just distracted now, like, you won't be distracted forever.
It's a normal part of the cycle of being in a relationship.
Yeah.
And the other thing to remember is when one door closes, another door can open.
Right. And
right? And the excitement of
100%.
working in a program like the Unstoppable Dating Systems like that is all the learning, the strategy, and the technique to find that right girl, right? But if it ends up you meet a girl and she's not the right one, you're going to have to go through this breakup process so you can make yourself available again to have the right encounter with the correct girl. All right, guys. Hey, we're back with a couple of bonus questions because I got you guys here in the studio. I want to just get I want to get your thoughts on a few key things that I know all of us guys, this happens to us every single time you go on a date with a woman that is like, you know, you're really excited to be on a date with her, and she comes at you with these questions. I want to hear your guys' opinions, all right? So this is complete. You guys didn't know these were coming, right? Yeah. Okay. Girl asks you when the last time you had sex. You say.
Beautiful. Okay, so this is a theory thing. It's not a line, right? Shit tests are this. When a girl tests you on something.
Okay.
There's 3 ways to pass. Misinterpret, ignore, and exaggerate. I like to exaggerate for this specific shit test, which is, what's the question? Ask again.
Where girl says, so when's the last time you had sex?
Honestly, like an hour and a half ago. It was pretty good. Now, he doesn't even know, but he knows that's a good thing to say.
Right.
I just break it down more theoretically. This is the natural theoretical balance.
All right. Okay.
People are like, no, Cam, you're a natural too. No. I appear to be a natural. That is my gift.
I swear that's exactly what I would say.
Really?
Probably an hour before getting ready. You know what I mean? Just deflect, joke, laugh.
Deflect or joke. Okay, so don't give like an exact like, well, you know, a week and a half ago, something like that. Don't go that route.
I would, and if she keeps pressing on it, that's a little bit weird.
Okay.
And then I'd probably say like, you know, a little bit longer than the last time you did.
But that's a good one.
Natural beats theory.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Because at that point, I'm like, okay, you're asking weird questions.
Right.
If we're not going to be able to joke it off, then what are we really? Are you really trying to find out and like?
Great point.
Because then I'm going to do it right back to you, right?
Like, what about turning it around and putting it right back on her? Like, well, when's the last time you had sex?
Well,
doesn't work. Don't go that route.
I feel like with what I said, it was doing that, but not in as harsh of a way as saying.
Yes.
Well, because then I'm like, I don't know you that well. I'm not trying to create contention right off the
bat. Yes.
If I jokingly say it and then she like laughs it off, cool. If she continues to press, that would be a third time. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what are we doing here?
Okay.
We want to sit down and do this.
And real quick, you have to remember when a woman shit tests you, it's not to get the answer to the question. It's to see what you say.
Interesting.
Okay, so she doesn't care when you had sex last, because whether it was 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, she's going to brainwash herself into whatever she wants. Meaning like 3 months ago, she's going to say you're a lame. 3 weeks ago, she's going to say you're a whore. Right. So the point is she wants to see, are you even going to qualify yourself to her? Are you even going to do what she wants? No, because any guy that has options doesn't care if that woman walks away based on the answer, which is why you joke and deflect, because why would you give a concrete answer?
Right.
Good point.
100%.
All right. This actually happened to me like a couple weeks ago at a bar. I was standing at the bar. Woman comes up next to me, and we're making a few, little bit of small talk. And out of the blue, she says, "So what do you do for a living?" Now, I thought this was a very interesting question, and before I say what if a woman asks you what you do for a living, how should you respond?
Yeah, so this is about changing boring answers into more interesting answers.
Yes.
So instead of saying, I'm a software engineer, you would say, or let's use a doctor example, it's better. Instead of saying, I'm a doctor, you could say, oh, I help people when they're sick.
Interesting.
Now she's like, oh, interesting. What do you mean? Like, are you this, right? Now it's like a more interesting conversation to a boring conversation. It's a more interesting way to have a boring conversation. And then you can say, no, I'm a doctor. Right?
Ah, okay.
So
okay,
that's
good.
how I like to do it.
Good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I would go about it like that. Like, I own a physical therapy practice, right? So I'd kind of phrase it like, well, have you ever been injured? Like, or, is there something, have you ever gone to someone for whatever? And then build off of that.
Okay, so kind of a follow-on question, like basically, how could a guy express that what he does sounds high value without coming across as arrogant or fake or something like that? Like, and more or less kind of what you said, but I mean, is there any additional tips to that? Like, if the guy genuinely has like kind of like a boring job, or maybe he's out of work, How about that? How would he respond in that situation?
Yeah, so you can make anything seem good and you can make anything seem bad. So like if he doesn't have a job, you can say, oh, I'm unemployed. That's bad.
Yes.
You can say, I'm looking for my next opportunity. That's a simple twist, right? Like if I was unemployed for real and like literally looking for a job, I would talk about like the transition. I would say, yeah, so I just got done. And once again, this is whatever you're doing. Like let's say it's a tech situation. You can say, yeah, so I just, finished my last stint at LinkedIn Recruiter, whatever, LinkedIn, doing enterprise sales, and now I'm looking for a new opportunity.
Like it?
Right?
100%, yeah. Like I think you just build on what you did in the past and then just looking for something different, or didn't really appeal to me, didn't, spark my interest, so I want to try something different. So I'm doing a career change. And like you give, to me, I'm telling you that what I did was valid, but I'm also saying that like I have the courage to be like, well, I'm going to do a career change because I want to do something that interests me, or I want to chase my dreams, or whatever it happens to be. But I'm not just saying like I'm a SoundCloud rapper. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm saying that I did something and now I'm changing it if I was unemployed.
And to your point earlier, it's about making a boring answer sound more high value, more interesting, stuff like that, right? Because is that question in line with a shit test kind of question? Because she's just kind of more curious about how you're going to respond as opposed to like what your actual answer is?
No. Typically when a girl asks you what you do, she just wants to know like where you're at in life. Right? So like that's not really a shit test. That's like she genuinely like wants to know, because she wants to see like if she's an attorney, she probably doesn't want to date somebody that works at Trader Joe's. No offense.
Sure.
Right? Anybody that takes offense to that, you might work at Trader Joe's, and that's fine.
Right.
But you're not. An attorney probably isn't looking for that.
She's trying to find someone on her level, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of research that comes out talking about, relationships needing like 1 or 2 standard deviations in terms of your career and IQ, like to be successful. So, I mean, there's some validity to it, not just our personal opinion.
I like it.
So.
Okay, when a girl asks when your last relationship was and how long it lasted, you say...
Similar shit test question, right? Because it's like it's the same thing as like when did you last have sex or whatever you said.
Interesting.
For that one,
like maybe a variation of that would be like, oh, so have you been single for a long time?
Right.
This is a question that I've had a woman ask me like out in a public setting. Have you been single for a long time? When was your last relationship? How long was it?
Right.
Yeah.
And I kind of, when that's happened to me, I do feel like the woman's just been genuinely kind of curious, like, okay, are you a playboy? Do you just go out and meet women all the time? Or do you actually get serious and stay in a committed relationship? That's where I feel that question's coming from, but I'm kind of checking myself with you guys here. Is that correct or not?
So once again, it's about why it's being said, not what is said. So you can ask that same question in different ways. I can say, so when was your last relationship? Pretty normal, right?
Yeah.
Like now let's say you're super flirty and whatever. Oh, it's like, when was your last relationship? It's like, how often are you doing this to potentially get with girls?
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
Depending on if she's asking it in a shit test way, you know how to handle it with the 3 ways that I said.
Yep.
If it's in a logical way where it's like, oh, like when was your last relationship? And you guys are on a date. I can answer that logically and be fine. I can say, oh, like earlier this year.
Yeah.
And then she might follow up, right? And say, oh, like February, March. And be like, February, March.
Okay.
Right? Just keep it simple. Because
Interesting.
the more you try to qualify whatever answer you're giving and are try hard about it, the more she's going to think you're like trying to hide something.
Yeah, like what are you trying to justify by?
Well, clarify the try hard thing. What do you mean by the try hard thing?
So ask me, when was my last relationship?
Yeah. So when was your last relationship? How long were you together with the girl?
Well, you know, it was kind of interesting because it was kind of complicated. Like we were on and off, and I was like with her for a little bit. See, I'm trying hard. Ask me again.
So when was your last relationship, and how long were you with the girl for?
Earlier this year. Lasted a few months.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I see the difference in that. Yeah,
So-
it's quite a, yeah, that's actually a big difference in that kind of, so you, and you like the latter response as the more casual kind of like, no big deal. We all are in relationships like that. Would you agree with that, KP?
I'd agree with that. I think depending on like how much time you have too, I think if you were in a relationship like a month ago,
Yep.
it's kind of hard to just say that and it come off okay. Like the girl's probably going to be like, you were in a relationship a month
Yes.
ago. So like it
Yes.
depends. Like if I can give myself a little bit of time, that's fine. I also think depending on the girl, like I'll turn it into like if I'm out and I meet you at a bar and we're chopping it up and we're having good conversation and you ask me something like that.
Yes.
I mean, I'll let you know, hey, I'm an open book. I'd love to talk about it, but that's more like first date conversation. So like, why don't we talk about it over coffee tomorrow?
I like that.
Because then I'm like, if I need to follow up and if we need to
Right.
have a discussion about it, like,
Right.
and it not be like a try hard, but we're talking about it and I'm going to learn about your past relationships.
Yep.
We can do that and sit down, but now I've gotten a date out of it.
Right.
And if you're really interested, now you're like, oh, yeah, that does sound good. Like, let's go back to having fun now. And I'm
Right.
not saying I'm not going to tell you, but I'm saying we'll chat about it.
And you know what's really interesting about that too is, to your point, if I literally had just got out of a relationship and it's someone that I'm thinking like this could be a good match for me,
Right.
I probably don't want to just be like, yeah, I just got out of a relationship like a week ago or a
makes
month,
it tough.
less than a month
It makes it
ago,
tough.
because that makes me look kind of bad. Like she'll be like, what? Like,
Right.
so yeah, so I might conceal that, or maybe like to your point, like dance around it a little bit or something like that. Just be more casual with the response, something like that. So
Yeah, I would say once again it goes back to like I like your answer as well. Making a bad thing good, right? So like if let's say I literally just got out of a relationship a week ago, I would say honestly I this is like something that it's about delivery, right? It's like I actually got out of a relationship pretty recently, so I'm not, I'm just looking to meet new people right now. Now you're telling her you're just looking to meet new people.
Right.
It's not about her saying I'm not looking for anything serious or I'm not looking for this or whatever. It's like you're
You've
setting the
already
frame
done.
for what this is. It's like
Right.
I'm just hanging out. I'm just looking to meet new people.
right.
Right.
Very good, very good.
Why do you think men aren't learning game, for lack of better terms? Like, why aren't they learning it? What do you guys think?
I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of like people with money and power that don't necessarily need or have game and clout, for lack of a better word, right?
Interesting.
And then those are the people you're looking at and following, and you're seeing what they do without acknowledging that you're not them. And the quality of women that they're also getting are not the quality of women you want. Like, there are a lot of men with a lot of clout that have no problem knowing that the women that are going after them are purely going after them for money, and they have no issue with that.
Interesting.
And then you find a girl like that wants you to take her out and wine and dine her, and then you're complaining that she wants a first date at Mastro's. And I'm like, well, you're following the formula to get you a girl that wants a first date at Mastro's.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right,
So I
right.
think that's a big thing that a lot of people just don't know how to talk to people or attract the women that they want, yeah.
I have two. That's a really good point, and I have two follow-on theories on it. First theory being is that I think a lot of men are intimidated, or like they got too much. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like too much pride to admit to themselves they don't know how to do it right. And they've kind of grown up maybe in a certain environment where they've observed maybe their friends hitting on girls in a certain way, or doing maybe they're even watching their own father do it or something like, who knows, right? Whatever the situation is. So the only thing they know how to approach a woman is through that experiences, right? Without actually like looking in the mirror and being like, no, I could be a lot better at this. I need to seek some help. So the first thing is you need to like lower your pride and just like say like, it's okay for me to seek out help from someone who's better, who's an expert at this.
Right.
And so I can learn how to approach, because like my personal thing, which is why I reached out to you for, Unstoppable Dating System, is I have no problem going up to girls that are, in my view, 6s, 7s, or 8s.
Yeah.
I get approach anxiety when it's a 9 or a 10.
Sure.
Someone who in my mind is like, wow, that girl is like gorgeous. I would love to be in a relationship with her. I'd love to get to know her more.
Yeah.
When it's a 9 or 10, that's when all of a sudden, like, all the nerves, all the anxiety hits, right? So, like, and, I've told you this, right?
Yeah.
And so I have no problem, like, saying this on camera and putting it out there. It's like, I looked in the mirror and said, my skill level is only to a certain degree.
Right.
Sure.
If I want to level up and really meet the woman of my dreams, I need to do something different than what I'm currently doing, because what I'm currently doing is only working, it's hitting a glass ceiling, right? So that's point number one. And then point number two is, I think maybe certain guys might also have some reservation about, well, I'm not at the level I want to be at yet to attract the kind of top tier girl that I think I could get. And I think the most fascinating thing that I've heard, Cam, you say is, that's why you'll see some of the hottest women in the world going on dates with like bartenders and stuff like that, because the bartender just knows how to talk to them in the right way. Yeah. And meanwhile, like some superstar, person with millions of dollars is like not getting, the hottest chicks, because they got money doesn't translate to them knowing how to actually like speak to a woman.
Why are people not learning? Two things. I think the first thing is like, there's pride associated with what's hard to ask for help for.
Yes.
So what's easier to ask for help for? How to get in shape? People have no problem getting a personal trainer, and people still have pride with that too, right? That's why there's people that are fat because they don't want help, right? Or they like either don't have the drive, or they don't want to, or whatever, or they don't think they can do it, whatever. But asking, like, if I go up to a guy in the gym and say, "Hey, dude, like, what's your workout routine?" Or like, "What are you eating?" Right? Because I want to look like that, or whatever. That's not as awkward as going up to a guy that has a bunch of girls around him, or a guy with a hot girlfriend, and saying, "Dude, like, I'll be honest with you, I struggle with women. Like, how did you get her?" Right? Something like that.
Right.
That's a hard conversation to have. And most guys may not like that, because they, like, if somebody asked me that, I would be I'd be ready to help you. Because that's my job. But like, some guys may like be like, "Oh, well, like, I want to like hide what I know," or like they just got lucky with one and they can't really tell you.
Interesting.
Right?
Yes.
So like, that's why like I always tell people, I'm like, look at somebody who's done both sides of what you're looking for. Meaning, can he prove that he was shining when he was single for real?
Right.
And can he prove that he can do a long-term relationship with somebody that you consider attractive?
And don't forget the other nugget that you've shared with me is, the first time you encounter a 9 or a 10, you're probably going to fumble that football.
Absolutely.
It's going to take,
human nature, right?
It's human nature. You're going to be all giddy and excited, like, wow, I actually pulled a 9 or a 10, my first one. And then, inevitably something's going to get fucked up in that process, right? Yeah. But if you keep practicing the material and you keep practicing the strategy and the approach, you'll be able to consistently do it. And that's the true sign of like that next level of mastery. Like that's what I'm presently, in the process of working on, is leveling up, getting my skill set stronger for that regard, right? But you have to be humble enough to say and acknowledge, like, this is where I'm plateauing. Like, I want to break through that plateau.
Definitely. Absolutely. And it's like, it's the same thing with like, who do you think, okay, if I'm a 6-figure business guy, if I make 6 figures, who do you think I want to learn business from? 7-figure people.
Right.
If you're a 7-figure business guy, who do you think you want to learn business from? 8-figure people.
Great analogy.
Now, 6-figure guys learning from 8-figure guys, there might be a little gap, because the 8-figure guy forgets when he was 6 figures a lot of the time. He forgets what it does. That's why you see even a lot of people, like rich people, talking about morning routines and like these cold plunge and red light sauna. It's like, bro, that's not how you got rich. You got rich and then started doing that because you had time. And now you forgot. Like,
you took this gap.
Great point.
Like,
Great point.
Read for 30 minutes in the morning. Bro, I get up and I work.
Right.
During the weekdays, I work and I work out. And
Facts.
the people that are really up and
Big
really
facts.
going crazy and making money are doing that. Now, same thing for fitness, right? I got to look at somebody who maybe like has my built naturally, but has like maximized that build.
Interesting.
Right? That I can relate to and make sense to. And that's why I tell people, it's like, bro, like, I'm very regular. People would even say I dress like a bum. Meaning, like, if I'm bad at dressing well and I'm still doing as well as I'm doing, and I don't, I'm not super rich, and I don't look super rich or appear to be super rich, there has to be something that I know to get the talent that I do.
Interesting.
So,
well said.
That's just a thought. Interesting. Okay, this is a good one. When it comes to money, what do you think about men paying for everything versus going half and things like that? Like, because I see so many mixed opinions on this, and I want to hear you.
Yeah. I'll let you go first on this one.
This one will ruffle some feathers for sure, but I love it. So to preface, like I'm super close to my mom. I have 2 older sisters, all very strong women, right? There's a whole bunch of fake feminists in the world right now, straight up, right? Like, they want their cake and eat it too.
Right.
Where it's like they want, everything to be treated equal until it comes to stuff like paying and the guy having their, old school chivalrous duties. So I think from a feminism standpoint, equality is equality, right? If I go to get drinks from Mateo, I'm going to get one round, you'll probably get the other round.
Yep.
And that's how it's going to go, right?
Yep.
I think the same goes for men and women in dating. Like, I'm not going to say I'm not going to pay for something,
right,
but I'm going to pay for it because I want to, not because I'm expected to pay for it every time we go out.
Exact same answer.
One thing that's very attractive to me, like raises you so much higher, is if we go on a first date and you don't do the fake reach for your wallet, but you actually want to, split the check. I'm not going to let you split the check because I want to take you out. I asked you out on a date. If I ask you out on a date, like, I want to treat you on that date. But if you're at least willing to say, and I've had a girl be, like, adamant about splitting it. We actually ended up splitting it because she wouldn't let me pay. Like, we went back and forth, like, 4 times. I'm like, this is the first time it's getting weird.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm like, the fact that you, like, have your own and you're willing to acknowledge, like, okay, we go 50-50 on this. I think that spills over to a lot of other, facets of the relationship. So
bro,
me,
I'm
literally one of the guys that's going to pay for everything. You're not getting your first straight from Mastros from me. I don't care if you're an 11. Like, it's not happening.
I literally could not answer the question any different. I have the identical answer as KP. I mean, it's again, to your point, you want to have all this, like, equality in all these other areas. If you legitimately make the effort to reach for your wallet and you're very serious, like, no, I really want to pay for this, like, same exact thing. Right. No, I asked you out, like, I'm going to be a gentleman and pay for it, but I respect the fuck that you at least were legitimately willing, offering to do that. That's super cool. That puts you, like, in a whole nother category. And now all this other stuff that you want to, hold your strict values on, like, I'm gonna respect that a lot more. Like, don't be a hypocrite. Don't, on the one hand, be marching down the street holding signs, all this shit, but then when it comes to pay, you're like, you put on this front that, like, oh, well, the man should pay. It's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Like, it's like that's like some two-faced shit, It's like, no, but if you legitimately offer, I'm gonna pay for it because I'm a gentleman. And then, I'm going to much, much more respect you in all these other areas, right?
What about when the relationship gets serious? Where does that change? Does that ever change?
I think that's a discussion you have, right? I think there's a lot of, you discuss roles, right? Like, I know someone, and I don't mind this at all, someone that, if someone moves, like, I have a house, someone moves into my house and I go, I'm not going to say, hey, split the mortgage with me half and half. I'm going to say, I'll take care of all the bills.
Interesting.
Like, do you want to get the groceries,
right,
or something like that? Do you want to handle, date nights? Like I'm not gonna say we have to split everything 50-50. Venmo me for this. I think gets a little bit tedious. And
if you're really in a relationship, it should be a team effort.
Yeah, I mean,
it should be a team effort.
Some people just go on and off depending on it. Other people just split things down the middle. Hey, you do the groceries and some of that stuff because you are typically the one that has the time to go shopping. I'll handle all the bills. Don't worry about it. So
right.
I think that changes things a lot, and I'm not looking at it. But when I'm going on dates with people, like, I'm not trying to create the situation that I'm going to be paying for everything. And it's not about being cheap or whether I can or can't. It's about I'm not trying to set that precedent before we become anything, right? Because it's almost I have so many girlfriends that are like, well, I don't know the last time I paid for a drink. I just go to the bar and stand there until guys buy me drinks. And I'm like, this is an issue with society right now. Like, like, this is a problem. If if a guy said something like that, it would be uproar.
It would be absurd.
It'd be
but
uproar.
You have to think about where it all comes from, right? So there was a time where women did not work.
Right.
That is why men paid for things. Women now fought for equal rights. They work now. So shouldn't you also pay for things if you work?
100%.
Like, it's like, how do you not justify that?
And I want to look into the camera and say, like, I am not, against women. I actually think I'm a feminist and most women aren't because I believe in equality. I will cook you dinner. I don't expect you to work a 40-hour week and come home and cook dinner and clean the house. Like, I expect I work, you cook, I cook, we clean the house. Like, I don't expect there to be, gender roles unless we agree on certain things that you may like doing and I may like doing, or you don't feel comfortable doing it, and we agree on that. But I don't think that, okay, you get to work, and then we're ordering takeout every night, and I'm paying for everything. Like, I don't see how that's equal in any way.
I got a follow-on question.
Can I say my last thought on that?
Yeah, go for it.
So the last thing that I think matters about the whole thing, about that whole subject, is where is everybody's money at, right? So like, if you make $500,000 a year and your girl makes 60 grand, should she be splitting the mortgage or the rent or dinner dates at Mastro's? No, probably not. You should, it doesn't make sense. But if you guys make around the same amount, I don't think there's any problem with splitting. I don't think there's any problem with splitting rent.
Right.
Especially because what happens, I'm sorry, I know you have a point. Especially if you're making the same amount of money, right? You both make $250K and you're paying for everything, and then you guys break up, and now she's just stacked bread for 2 years.
Exactly.
And you have essentially, I don't want to say wasted, because maybe it was a valuable 2 years, but now you're like, okay, well, you basically got to do all this, and now I'm left high and dry. Right? Yeah. So I think that's a good point. But yes, if there's a major discrepancy, I do believe, again, those are conversations you have where it's, okay, I got it, because obviously, we're a team, whatever it is.
And I think Masters should definitely be giving us a free meal for all this plugs we're giving them. Okay. Separate bank accounts, or do you merge bank accounts?
That's a tough one.
Okay, you should have separate bank accounts. Can
Always.
you also have a joint one? Sure.
I think that's how it goes.
If you want. I've never done the joint thing. I'll be honest with you. I've never done
That's real. That's real.
I know people that have and got screwed. I know people that have that made it work. So it's once again, it's not black or white.
Yep.
I would never do the joint bank account thing until I was probably married or in a very serious relationship, just because I think things get a little bit messy if a breakup happens. Not to say you can't get divorced, but obviously there's a lot of other measures in there. So, but I think always you should have separate bank accounts and then a joint one.
Right.
I have done something along the lines of a joint fund, if you will. We both put our money into a Venmo account or something, and then we each week we put, say, $100 in each, and then we save that for vacations or splurging on things together. So it's not really a joint bank account, but I think that's nice because we're both contributing to something that we can then enjoy, whether it's a vacation every 2 months or something like that. So, but I've never done the joint bank account. I don't intend to anytime.
And I just want to comment, let's dispel this idea that a prenuptial agreement is a bad thing. If you have a ton of money or you own assets, you own a house, something like that, all a prenuptial agreement is saying is listen, we're in this for love. We're not in this for assets.
The only people. Also, hold on, I need to cut you.
Because a lot of women get upset about that. They get all what? You want me to sign a prenup? I want to, because I just want to know that we're in this for love, not for anything else.
No. This is the issue.
That'd be my way to say it.
There's no rich person that has a problem with the prenup.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
But just stop. Right?
That's what my point is.
And that can be male or female. If you're if you watch Suits, have you watched Suits?
Oh yeah.
Bro, Rachel marrying Mike Ross, why do you think her dad wants a prenup?
Right.
Mike wasn't freaking out about it.
Right.
But he knows.
Right.
It's bro, that's why in reality.
If you both have nothing to your name, then who gives a shit?
I think it comes down to two things, right? One, if they have a problem with it, it's because they want your money in some way or the other.
Yes.
Or two, they feel that you're asking for a prenup and they're believing that it's because you don't trust them. And that should be fixed with a conversation.
Yes.
So it's not about the prenup. I think if it's one of those two issues or it's nothing, they're signing it. I don't think there's any other third scenario where that happens.
Yeah, it's not about trust. So what it is there's a reason why statistically, what percentage of women do you think, what percentage of divorce is initiated by women? What percentage do you think?
80%. 80%.
Why is it 80? Because it's
Is it 80?
It is 80.
Oh, wow. I guessed that correct.
In the United States. So why do you think that is? Clearly, it's because, and this is not saying women don't make money, and no, women do make money. But men typically marry down financially, and women will refuse to most of the time. That is why women will initiate a divorce, because there's more of a come up to leave than make it work. Whereas men try to make it work because they're like, fuck, I got to give her half.
Right.
Interesting.
Right? And they don't want to give you half. We don't, which is why the prenup makes sense if the finances are imbalanced. Does sex on the first date change your opinion of a girl, actually?
Yeah. Okay. It depends where I met the girl and how much I've been talking to her. If I meet you at the club and we go home and we have sex, that probably changes my opinion. I don't think you're a horrible person. I'm not going to say there's not going to be a second date, but I think I'm going to look at that differently now. If I meet you on a dating app or I meet you on Instagram and we've been chatting for 2 weeks and then we go on a date and have sex, that's a very different situation for me. I've met you once in both scenarios. I've had sex with you that night, but we've had two very different, outlooks on it or experiences on it.
Okay, fascinating. Okay.
So for me, and I think it comes down to a little bit of, not knowing with the club girl, how often does this happen? I don't know anything about you yet.
Right.
So I don't even know if I want a second date, but it's going to, be something that I'm thinking of in the back of my head. Like, I met you here, not to knock my game or anything, but there's going to be other people that you meet. Do you do this often?
Wow.
If I'm talking to you and we're having good conversation about life, and we go on a date and we're enjoying ourselves and that ends up happening, I don't feel like I met you that day. I feel like I met you 2 weeks ago, but I'm meeting you in person today.
Right.
So I think those are two different.
Couldn't agree more. And I think, interestingly enough, I think myself personally, as I get older, my opinion about sex on the first date changes from a standpoint of like, I might not even really be like pushing for it. Right. Per se, right? I might genuinely just be like, hey, I just want to see like what's up with you. Like, can we connect? Can we have a conversation? Do we have things like aligned, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, right? All that stuff. If all those parts are there and then it organically ends up happening on the first date, cool, no problem. But if she just puts it out there like, hey, let's go home, blah, 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 way different category. I'm like, okay, this is just like a smash and grab. Like, I'm out, I don't even care, whatever. Right. So I think context matters.
Yeah. I actually wasn't going to answer that way, but I now see that based on like things that have happened in my life, that does matter. Yes. In the sense of like, if I literally like I'm at the club and this is my first time I'm meeting you, like I'm saying what's up to you at the bar, what's your name? Yes. And then we go home together that night.
Yes.
I gotta wonder how often this happens. And once again, not to knock my game, but I'm thinking about it right now.
Couldn't agree more.
At the same time, before I got into the relationship that I'm in now, as a single man, I very rarely wasn't sleeping with girls on the first date. Maybe the second, but it was either first, second, or nothing. And by nothing, I mean like it was only first or second. Like there wasn't like 3 dates, 4 dates go by and there's nothing happening.
Interesting.
The reason it has been a little warped for me is because of that consistency is so regular that it doesn't matter. Like it just doesn't, except for the situation that you said where it's like if I literally just meet you at the bar,
right?
I'm like kind of like you're kind of wild.
Yep.
Right. Like so that's kind of where I'm at. I got the last one for us. Do you think you should be in a relationship when you're like on your come up and like, let's even say when you're broke, or so you can know like it's real, or when you're at the top of your game? Ooh. And by top of your game, I mean like you made it financially, you're at your peak.
Wow.
You're in incredible shape. Your game's on point, so on and so forth. Like,
Good.
what do you?
Great question. Great question.
I want to preface it with saying that, like, if you're an ambitious person and you're on your come up, you're never really going to look at it as like you made it. So I don't, and this supports my answer in saying I don't think you should wait until you're at your peak. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think there is a baseline, a bare minimum that, you should have to be able to go on dates and afford the things that come with being in a relationship.
Right.
But I think once you're at that bare minimum, and if you want to set that number at whatever, say if you make $70K, right? I think like at that point, working on yourself is important, but I think that you can be dating people and you can be in a relationship and you can still be on your come up.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you need to wait for it, because also you can find a partner that helps your come up exponentially, right? Again, when we talk about finding someone that supplements your life, like that can be purely beneficial to you. Having that person, and it doesn't have to be financially draining. Like a good relationship shouldn't be financially draining, no matter how much money you make.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like that's the way I view it.
there's
Hence,
just
good relationship.
Good relationship,
Good
healthy,
relationship.
good relationship.
Yes.
It doesn't. You can be spending money and it not be financially draining because you're making more money than you're spending.
Right.
And are you making more money because of what both of you guys bring to the table, or because of how you supplement each other? Like,
Right.
like a good woman or a good partner could help you be better at all the things you're doing and
Yeah.
be more efficient at it and
Absolutely.
give you time back. Right. There are a lot of things that can come from a relationship that help you in the financial realm.
I think there's a certain like romanticism with like coming up together. You know, you're both like young people that like don't have a penny to your name,
Right.
And you're kind of supporting each other and building each other up on the come up. But I also there's a lot of struggle in that too, right? That can weigh on the relationship, and it can like, and I've been in that situation with my ex where like we're working on our come up like this years ago, and it was a lot of stress. It was a lot of stressful nights where we weren't interested in being, you know, intimate with each other and stuff like that because we were fucking stressed. Like, how are we going to pay these bills? How are we going to do all this, you know? So it almost became more of like in some ways in a good way, like a friendship, but then you lost some of that fire and passion because you're just always, your backs are against the wall, like trying to figure shit out, right? So you know, I think there's the pressure is like maybe like a little bit less if you're at the top of your game, you know, all this money in the bank and stuff like that. But I really don't know the right answer per se. I would venture to guess that since I've already had the experience of doing it, like with a woman where we were both trying to come up, that I'm more inclined to try to find a relationship partner when I'm already like feeling pretty good and settled. Right. But at the same time, like to your point, if I'm really ambitious, I'm never really going to be like settled. So I'm always going to be like doing something. And as long as that relationship partner is like speaking life over me and like giving me positive reinforcement and like giving me like encouragement to get to that next tier, like that's cool, right? Like that's what I'm seeking the most, I would say. And really quick, real funny thing is like what popped in my head right now, and I don't know this person personally, obviously, but when I see clips of like old school Jeff Bezos, like I'm talking about like early days of Amazon like
in the garage
he looks so like, you know, for lack of a better term, like nerdy and like a dork, right? And like man, and the woman that he was with back then, he was married to all these times, and then you look at him present day where he like divorced that woman, he's with this like hot Latina chick, like doesn't like, I don't think that woman would have given like old school Jeff Bezos like the time of day,
No, not at
but
all.
present day Jeff Bezos, like all day she's going with him, right? Just very interesting like dynamic there.
But
There's truth in that, right?
But here's you segued me into the perfect point I wanted to make, is that yes, there is a bare minimum of like, should you even like be worried about dating at all? However, there's people like my barber has told me the story. Him and his wife were on their last, or it wasn't his wife at the time, current wife, but him and his girl at the time were on their last like $150.
Wow.
And like they just figured it out.
Yep.
So like the right partner can get you from the bottom to the top. Hence the right partner.
Yes.
But what people need to understand is quote unquote focusing on yourself isn't always the best thing to do in terms of the extreme, because your dating life can bring positives to other areas of your life. So I'll tell you, like when I was 22 living in the city, I just moved to a new city. I was sleeping on some lady's living room floor, living on a very low salary, and I was lonely. And because I was lonely, I was depressed at work. So like at my job, I wasn't like performing, and it was because I had nothing to really look forward to after work.
Wow.
Right? So learning the right communication skills got me results with women, which then allowed me to have more drive at work, and then allowed me to be confident at work and perform at work. And now my money's coming up and my dating life's getting better. Now I care about fitness. Now I'm getting in better shape. So everything can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And like,
that's true.
if you just grind away and focus on money for 5-10 years straight, and then you realize that you're rich and women don't give a fuck,
Right.
that hurts even more. And
Big
I see
time.
people that come to me today that have 7-figure a year incomes that literally can't approach a girl sober if they tried.
Wow.
I mean, and that's because their values and their money, right? Because that's what you focused on for. But I feel like that bare minimum is not anything extraordinary. Like, I feel like it's just, okay, you need to get your priorities straight, and you should be able to hit that bare minimum.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Like, I'm not setting it as $150,000. Like, setting it something that's like, just get your priorities straight.
Yep.
You can figure out in the Bay Area how to make $70,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
You can.
But, yes, I agree.
Good stuff, guys.
Great stuff, guys.
Great meeting. Catch you guys on the next one.
Yes, sir.
All
Talk
right.
soon.
Good.